Next, it's a serious infection that leads to hundreds of hospitalisations in the capital every year. RSV is a very common illness at this time of year, but can become serious in the very young and the elderly. Now, the NHS is encouraging pregnant women and people over 75 to get vaccinated against it and reduce the winter pressure on health services. Alison Earle has more.
It's any parent's worst nightmare, seeing your baby struggling to breathe. Yusra's son Zaki was just 3 months old when he became seriously unwell.
Mostly it was his chest caving in, so you could see almost like his rib cage. He was inhaling and exhaling so hard to try and get a few breaths out. And by the time we arrived at the hospital, they said his oxygen levels were like dangerously low, and I didn't realise.
He was eventually diagnosed with a lung infection caused by respiratory syncytial virus, or RSV. It's often mild and causes coughs and colds, but can be dangerous in babies and the elderly. The NHS has warned it could lead to extra pressure on their services during the winter months, so is now rolling out a vaccine for pregnant women over 28 weeks and those aged 75 to 79.
It's the first time that we've been giving this vaccine in such a big group in a blanket protection, but it's not a new vaccine. It's been used for many years and it's very safe. It's been tested in over 1,000 women in the USA, and there were no major concerns whatsoever, no side effects. So it's a proof that it's safe for pregnancy.
Analysis by the NHS suggests 900 hospital admissions across London could be avoided if around 60% of pregnant women get the RSV vaccine. For mums-to-be at this clinic at St Thomas's, it means another jab to add to the growing list.
COVID, flu and RSV and then an anti-D because I've got negative blood type. No, it feels like quite a lot, but I've done everything I can do now, so...
But as long as the baby's protected from any viruses or any, lung conditions, then I'm more than happy to get that done.
Yusra, meanwhile, wishes it had been available when she was pregnant and is encouraging others to consider it.
I'm by no means someone who gets vaccinated for everything. Look at the numbers, I would say, look at the sciences behind it, and do your research.
Despite some side effects from his illness, her son's now well and loves football, a huge turnaround from his first few months of life, and the virus, which medics hope could now be prevented. Alison Earle, BBC London.
Now, a year ago, the country's first urban beavers were introduced to their new home in Greenford in West London. Already they've had babies, and now the latest stage of their development is upon them, and that includes helping to repopulate other areas of the UK. Here's our environment correspondent, Tom Edwards.
These beavers in Greenford have been very happy on this site, right next to a retail park. They've been here for a year. The family has expanded to 7, but now it's time for the eldest daughter to be moved on to start a family of her own in Wales. They're using these traps to catch her.
Very exciting phase of the project is we are taking the adolescent female, so the eldest daughter. She will be 3 in spring, and naturally she would want to go off and find a territory of her own. So we found her a bachelor beaver in Wales, and she's going to start a new family down there.
Is that normal?
It is normal. So this is a managed population of beavers. They're behind a fence. It's an enclosure trial. So what we're doing is we're going to take her out when she would naturally disperse on her own anyway and try and find her own territory. And we're using this contraption, which is a Bavarian beaver trap. And as you'll notice, we've put some apples inside. Apples are absolutely irresistible to beavers. And we're hoping to catch her over the next week or so, and then bring her to Wales to her new husband.
The changes the beavers have made to this site at Paradise Fields are clear. There are 8 dams and many trees have been chopped down. Experts say this shows the benefits beavers can have.
Beavers are really a good all-rounder. They really help woodland restoration and regeneration, but they're probably more famous for the work they do on streams and watercourses. I mean, a classic example here, the damming. Not only does it slow the water flow, but it's also cleaning the water as well. So beavers are really important for our environment.
And those behind the project say it proves beavers can reduce flooding.
One of the objectives of this project was to look at how they impacted urban flooding. Downstream around Greenford Tube Station, And about 2 months ago, we had a tremendous amount of rain overnight, over 2 nights, and streets upstream, streets around Greenford, all flooded. But the target area that we said the beavers would impact didn't flood. So the community, really saw the benefits of having beavers back here.
And other people are going to learn from this, do you think? You've been to a lecture in Colorado, so the word is spreading a little bit.
Beaver fever is on the rise, and people are realising that this species is, an ecosystem engineer, a keystone species, a species that not only has benefits for the environment, for climate change, capturing carbon, creating complex wetlands, benefiting wildlife, but also has benefits for people.
So a new start for one of these beavers, a success story for nature in the capital. Tom Edwards, BBC London.
Okay, it's due to get a little bit colder. Let's find out what the weather's been in store. Here's Corsa.
Hello there, good afternoon. Well, after the wet and windy weather of yesterday, today it is a much quieter day. Dry and bright though, with plenty of sunshine, but it will be chilly out there as we're drawing in the winds from the northwest with that light to moderate northwesterly wind. But plenty of bright skies and temperatures this afternoon. Overnight it remains dry and it becomes very cold overnight. Temperatures widely dip below freezing. We're looking at lows of around -3 to maybe -5 Celsius in some spots. So it means for tomorrow morning it is a chilly start to the day, but a dry, bright start with some spells of sunshine throughout. Maybe some cloud arriving in from the north at times, but staying dry.
Defeat!
And tomorrow again 2 to 5 Celsius. But as we look ahead to this weekend, well, it is going to turn much more unsettled. We have this weak area of low pressure arriving in, bringing with it milder air and outbreaks of rain. And as it nudges into the colder air overhead, there is the risk of some sleet and some snow. Now, there is a widespread, broad brush meteorological weather in force about midday on Saturday throughout the weekend until early Monday morning. And this morning is subject to change. It does look like for us there may just be some sleet and snow for a time, turning to rain and becoming milder by Sunday.
Okay, that's just it from BBC London. Now it's time to hand you back to Anna Foster
No.
and the rest of the BBC News at 1. Goodbye.
Now, Kemi Badenoch has called for a national inquiry into what she's called the UK's rape gang scandal. The Conservative Party leader made the call on social media, arguing that 2025 must be the year that the victims start to get justice. Well, our political correspondent Leila Nafi has been looking at this. Leila, what more do we know?
Well, Anna, Kemi Badenoch is referring to a number of historical cases of abuse where gangs of men sexually abused and groomed young girls in an organised way, and sometimes on a massive scale. Now, this happened across the country in recent years. There have been trials, prosecutions, many towns affected. Now, the reason that this is being discussed now is because councillors in Oldham, one of the towns where there have been exploitation cases in the last decade or so, have been asking central government for a central government investigation into their area. And a letter from the Home Office Minister Jess Phillips has recently come to light saying that she is not going to do a central government-led investigations, saying instead that local investigations and inquiries are best. Now, she said she was also focused on implementing the recommendations of a very wide-ranging investigation inquiry into child sex exploitation published back in 2022. Its author has said that she is frustrated that none of those recommendations have been implemented. But now, Kemi Badenoch and other senior Tories are seizing on this, calling for a national inquiry, a statutory public inquiry into all these different separate cases that involve